In 2023, universities are churning out graduates at an unprecedented rate, and the job market is being flooded with an ever-expanding array of degrees. Many of these seem extremely obscure and devoid of practical value, which leads many people to argue that they're a waste of time, both from the perspective of job prospects and also from the perspective of personal development. This isn't just an issue at the undergraduate level. Even at the PhD level, we see people dedicating years to hyper-specialized research with limited real-world value. It's as if much of the scholarly work nowadays could disappear without there being any real impact on society. But believe it or not, this isn't a problem unique to the modern era. In fact, it's been debated for more than 2,000 years. The ancient Roman philosopher Seneca, who was known for his Stoic philosophy, had some scathing words for scholars who fixate excessively on the liberal arts. Now, Seneca really didn't hold back. He criticized the character of many of those who teach in these liberal arts disciplines, arguing that they're reprehensible and worthless. Now, this criticism still has some truth today, as we witness academic cancel culture, political hiring biases in academia, and a gradual prioritization of sensitivity over free academic inquiry. Now, Seneca challenged the notion that excessive study of poetry, literature, or history, or similar disciplines leads to personal virtue, and he argued that an obsession with the liberal arts makes people pedantic, boring, irritating, and self-satisfying. Now, this criticism remains relevant today. I think we're all familiar with the actually type who is more interested in pedantic correction than genuine practical wisdom. This critique remains especially relevant today, where a common reason given for the importance of the liberal arts studies in university is a kind of personal or moral development. But in reality, we see a very strong political bias in liberal arts classes. Students aren't taught to develop virtues like courage, temperance, discipline, or the ability to overcome adversity, and are at best inculcated with establishment norms and conformist ideology under the guise of moral development. Seneca did make a unique exception to the liberal arts. He believed that philosophy, or the pursuit of wisdom, was a worthwhile endeavor. He didn't hold back, however, when criticizing his fellow philosophers for fixating on abstract questions that had no tangible benefit to humanity. Now, as a former philosophy student myself, I can attest to the relevance of Seneca's criticisms here. Many philosophers are still consumed with diving into these abstract technical pursuits and often do become very pedantic in the process. As Seneca points out, there's an infinite number of these abstract questions to explore, but we should filter out the superfluous knowledge and focus our mental capacity on things that genuinely benefit us. In my own journey through analytic philosophy, I many times found myself drawn into these debates and fascinated by them. I spent a lot of time thinking about, writing about, and reading on questions such as the existence of God, the nature of time, the nature of consciousness, whether or not we can know and access the true nature of reality. But I eventually concluded that much of this is pretty much completely useless, and there are far better things that you can spend your time learning about that will actually benefit your life. I also did find myself becoming quite pedantic as a result of fixating on these abstract technical questions, which are difficult and tricky and quite interesting, but they just simply do not provide practical value. Fast forward to 2023 and we still see people dedicating years or even full careers to the types of questions that Seneca was listing as the abstract questions that philosophers were wasting time on 2,000 years ago. It's very telling that these same questions are being debated fruitlessly today. Seneca's words still ring true. To want to know more than what is sufficient is a form of intemperance. He advocates for a kind of intellectual minimalism, likening useless knowledge to useless possessions. We should exercise discipline in not indulging our desire to excessively pursue abstract topics. According to Seneca, philosophy's role is to investigate virtue and to teach us how to overcome desires, how to overcome fears of inevitabilities like death or adversity, and to become more disciplined, rational, and just. In contrast, investigating irrelevant historical facts, like whether one historical figure was born before another, or diving into the complexities of music theory, or figuring out all the implications of some abstract metaphysical model, or bringing forth new knowledge within gender theory or some sort of extremely niche political philosophy are simply a complete waste of time to Seneca. Now, of course, Seneca's criticisms don't target any sort of study on things like history or literature. Of course, there'll always be a place for some people to be learning about these topics. However, they do raise concerns about the modern university system and the balance between practical wisdom and academic pursuit. We have to ask ourselves, how might society look and how might the state of personal virtue and development be if, rather than spend so much time on these irrelevant questions and extremely abstract debates, there were more people focusing on cultivating practical wisdom or figuring out really pressing, important practical details?